I don't know why, but you were watching the Madness Comic Network. Are you mental?
All right.
Very nice, fellas.
Thank
So,
you, sir.
Hey, everybody.
what was your first instrument, Mal and Tavian? What's the first instrument you ever picked up and said, "I think this is gonna be cool"?
Tavian was a savant kazoo player at the age of 3. Y'all don't even know he's been performing since he was 3 years old. He was on the Ed Sullivan Show even.
Well, I heard Mal was the famous jug player from back in the sticks. He used to play the jug like no one else.
Hoot. Hoot. First instrument, huh? You
Yep.
go, Tavian.
Oh man, well it depends on. I mean, the first instrument, my brother. So I guess I'm the youngest in my family by far. My brother is about 9 years older than me, and my sister's about 11, and then I have an even older half sister. So, um, my brother was just about to graduate high school when he bought an old upright piano. And that's when I started picking out songs by ear on the piano. And that was kind of first instrument. But see, I lucked out in that I don't know if it was the era, the region, or both, but I grew up, it was just normal in school for K through 5, just like you've got a math class. See, for me, K through 5, you're sitting in one class all day with the same teacher, except for music class. And music class was just a class. It was we had our one teacher that taught us math and reading and all that, and then music period, you walk down the hall to the music teacher. And it wasn't much. You learned to play the recorder, you might learn how to sing as a choir, you learned a little bit of how to read music, but that's really where it all started. So I guess recorder and voice might be technically my first instrument, but it was really saxophone, and that I picked that up in 6th grade, because 6th grade was when we had the choice of having an elective for the first time. And
The saxophone, huh?
it was either art or music, art or band, and I couldn't draw for shit. So I said, I already know music, so let me do this band thing. I had no idea what song or what instrument I wanted to play, but I got in line behind the girl I'd had a crush on for like 3 years at that point, and she picked saxophone, so I picked saxophone. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Nice. All right, Mal, your turn. What's
All
the
right.
instrument you first?
So I guess the kazoo thing was a little hyperbolic. But no,
I actually had a kazoo around the age of 3, and I was pretty good at it. So.
me too, actually. Funny
You can
enough.
sing in key. You can play the kazoo.
Yeah. The first thing I actually legitimately attempted to learn was the dreaded recorder, in point of fact.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not go the route. I did not grow up in a school district that had good music, anything like Tavian. It was all just kind of a, hodgepodge mess for me, lots of moving.
I
But
bet you I could make you a recorder sound right quick.
oh, I'm sure you could. I hate the recorder sound, though. Really not a fan. Well, the high end ones with a pro player, that's okay. But even then, it's like I just don't like. There's better horns. There's better woodwinds, rather.
I can crush you in the recorder. Just
Yeah.
saying.
No, I
Wow.
believe it. I believe
Not,
it. But
not
that is
Tavian. Not Tavian, but Mal.
that I had this vision in my head when I was like 10 years old that I was going to charm the snakes in the woods with my recorder because I thought Aladdin or some shit. But the next time that I actually got serious about music, I was 15 years old, and my uncle gave me a guitar. And, well, I just never stopped playing. Maybe I was 14 when he gave it to me, but I got really serious at 15. And it was missing a string, missing a tuning peg. It was an old beater electric, and I just tinkered with it. And then I really, really got into Nirvana. Was really the first band I got into, and guess what? I could play that shit. And then it was Metallica. So the first song that I actually learned to play, like the song, was Fade to Black by Metallica. It's extremely difficult piece. I didn't know any better. I learned Come As You Are riff and Smells Like Teen Spirit, like chord. But when I really actually learned a song and tried to hit it note for note, Fade to Black. And I did it. It was like, 5 months of extremely hard work and, like super, super frustrated. But I just, there's no quit in me. I was going to do it. And I just never stopped playing guitar.
Awesome, man. I mean, I'm somewhat of a musician. I play the drums, and I remember an old blues tune. It was Hoochie Coochie Man, and that was the drumming song I wanted to hit note for note.
Right.
That's the first one I got.
Nice.
It was old school. It was simple, but I did it.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, I actually increased my volume from last time, Tavian.
Oh, really?
Nice.
I'll take
Very
it down
nice
just a
volume,
touch.
sir.
Yeah, but I'm much louder than you, Ghost.
That's
so
fine.
let's
I can
equalize
turn
a
it
little
up. Nah.
I'm not sure how much of that great big catfish's farts I want to listen to.
Okay. Well, I'll turn down.
In case you didn't know, Tavian, did you catch it earlier about the giant tank? No, you were having
No, I
issues.
couldn't. I was having audio issues.
So Ghost has a giant fish tank with a giant catfish in it sitting right next to his head.
Okay.
And so
Yes.
I just have this picture in my head of this giant catfish staring him down, looking at him like he's Chicken McNugget every moment of he's
He
online.
watches. Look, he watches when I eat my tacos.
I'm
He's like
not surprised even a little.
creeping in the background. Like, throw him a jalapeno or two. He's
Lord.
satisfied with that. He's satisfied with that.
Hey, catfish would eat it, wouldn't it? It kind
All
of just
right.
mean anything.
We got song number 2 coming up from Atomic Annie. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool.
Thank
Right. Nice.
Into the fire.
Okay. So next question. Tavian and Mal. DC or Marvel? Let's get the comics out of the way.
Oh,
DC or
man.
Marvel? What's your favorite?
Yeah,
What's your favorite comic book character too?
I gotta go. God, and it's like 49-51. I think, I don't know, maybe more than that, but I DC for me.
Ooh,
But
Okay.
that's not the films. It's the animated and the comic books themselves.
okay.
Okay, now fair point there. So see, here's the thing. I would have always said, in general, Marvel, just because I like how they set things in the real world. They don't make up cities, you know.
Yeah.
But and Spider-Man, hands down, has always been my favorite superhero.
You're such
I
a
guess-
Peter Parker.
I am. I identify with Peter Parker like hardcore.
What a nerd.
And the in terms of properties outside the paper comics, but it's the same IP. You've got the 90s Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons that were phenomenal, and some companions. Like there was a Hulk that was great. There was an Iron Man that was pretty good in that same era. But probably if you were to just say, take any comic book IP, favorite is what I refer to, and I think others as the Timverse. Everything starting with Batman the Animated Series through Justice League Unlimited, and then there's been a handful of movies since then. That is absolute peak comic book storytelling, in my opinion.
And mine as well.
Wow.
Okay. For especially okay, I'll back it up. Peak comic book storytelling in the animated visual medium. I'll put that caveat on it.
Sure.
Because there have been some absolutely phenomenal, written comics that I don't want to take away from. But in terms of, taking comics and adapting them to another medium. In fact, I'll say that. Taking a comic book and adapting it to any other medium. Bruce Timm did it the best from BTAS through JLU.
Yeah, I agree. And Tavian made me a convert on that one. I own all DC animated now.
Yeah, the entire DCAU.
Well, except for the last couple years worth of, because I haven't, and it's only a few films, but I've been broke.
And those broke into a new universe. They weren't involved. Yeah. Bruce Timm wasn't so much involved, and they were good. Don't get me wrong, they were good. And it's funny, the DC. There's an interesting thing, when it comes to live action, especially Infinity Saga, MCU. Nobody ever came close, in my opinion, on the live action side of things.
Agreed.
So I always found it amusing that you had the DCAU completely kicking everyone's ass on the animated side, because I never cared for in the time frame of the DCAU, I never cared for anything that Marvel was putting out animated wise. It just didn't do it for me.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time,
the new Spider-Man though is quite good.
Is it? I haven't had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, with
Cool.
Black Kid. It's excellent.
It's a Miles Morales Spider-Man?
Yes, Miles Morales.
Oh,
I couldn't remember his name.
The Spider-Verse movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to see that one.
They're freaking fantastic. I think there's two of them now. My daughter loved them, and she's like, "Hey, Dad, let's watch this." I'm like, "Oh, okay," And no, because I said, okay, because I had seen Marvel's attempt at animation prior. Yeah. And
I dug the first one, so I need to check the second one out.
That's right. Yeah, I think I showed you the first one.
Yeah, we watched it together. Yeah,
it was good. But my favorite character, to answer the second part of the question, there is it's got to be Bats. It's got to be Bats.
up there for me too.
I'm a little unhinged, as far as who you relate to, like Peter Parker for Tavian. I'm a little bit high strung. I've been known to take cat naps in order to get the 102nd hour of work in that week. And you know, I laugh a lot.
Yeah.
I've learned to become very positive, and that's mostly, I think, my better half rubbing off on me. But yeah, kind of a brooding guy for most of my life, but not so much these days. I like keeping things as light as I can.
He didn't say that.
What?
You said your better half has been having a positive effect, and I said that would be me.
Negatory. No, I like the whammons, as it turns out. None of the fellers.
Just nearly stepped on my cat.
You'll have people thinking we're a freaking couple, dude. Lordy.
So mine would probably be Archie.
Okay.
Just saying. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actual comic book people, I'm picking Superman because you can't really beat Superman. So I'm a DC guy too, I guess.
Yeah, Soups is cool though, man. Soups is
I gotta beat Superman. You can't beat Superman in the alternate reality. Unless you got kryptonite. And only Batman has kryptonite and they're friends. So
yeah. Well, it's there to take him out in case Soups gets brain jacked or some crap like that. But I remember seeing a friend of mine on Twitter, Magical Trevor, great dude. He was commenting about all the hate that the new Superman trailer was getting, right? And this isn't so much a story about that trailer, the new movie that's coming out. But what he noticed was that this actor appeared to be playing a optimistic country boy that despite being the most powerful man on the planet, never corrupted him, good to the core, right? American, and truth, justice, in the American way kind of embodiment is what Trevor got from one of those trailers. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. You know, this dude, that's what he is. Hollywood has tried to make Superman super edgy. They made him a deadbeat dad one time even. And definitely not a fan of that. You know, I think Tavian disagrees with me on there. We're about to have a blood sport debate. No.
I did not care for the Superman Returns version of Superman.
Yeah, it was terrible. I couldn't remember. There's some Superman where I'm like, I didn't care for that. You're like, no, it's great, dude. What are you talking about?
If Brandon Routh is going to be in the DC live action universe, he needs to be the Atom.
Yeah, yeah, that would work.
Superman.
Yeah. No, Soups is Christopher Reeves is the last Superman, and I love Henry Cavill. You know, he did an okay job. He just really leaned into the Kal-El, which is like, you know, a tenth of the guy's personality, and there was no Clark, right? Yeah. And he probably did what the directors wrote on that. You know, fine actor, but yeah. So the most interesting comic book I read recently was the Max. Maxx.
Yeah, Max.
Do you remember the Max?
I have heard of that.
He's kind of purple with a yellow mask, big teeth, giant feet, claws for middle fingers.
He's got constantly flipping middle fingers. His middle fingers are.
You don't know that it was on Liquid TV, MTV, the Max, right? You don't know this? Well, the Max is. Gosh, neither of y'all know. Oh yeah, okay. So Ghost, you were chiming in there.
I know Max.
So, man, I got to tell you, dude. Like I was expecting. Well, in the '90s, a lot of comic book artists decided that they could just do it all themselves, and that's fine. They certainly can, and be the writer as well as the artist. And so we got some really weird shit. I think that one was on the front end of it. Because that was a weird ass story. First of all, it's only like 32 issues, right? The whole run of the Max. That's it. I saw it everywhere, in the 90s. But well, at least as far as I'm aware, I could only find 32 issues. But yeah, Max is cool. Really weird. Like they were on some acid when they wrote it.
Well, a lot of the, I say a lot, I know of several of the comic series in the 90s that were really art focused. The comics were drawn by the artist because they were just drawing things they wanted to draw. They had no script, they had no story, they just drew. And
Right.
then the writer would have to come in and make it work.
I'm sure it got very fever dreamy.
Yeah.
That could be cool though.
Hmm.
You know, it depends. I hope they're a really talented writer. Because you're going to have 1,900 turns in that story.
Mr. Tizo, are there no Max stickers? Come on now.
The Max. Oh, does he know the Max? Wouldn't be surprised if he knew the
He's
Max.
larking.
He's a larky turkey. Oh, he's got the Silver Surfer up. Poor Silver Surfer, man. You know, I probably have read more Marvel than I have DC, even though I'm more of a DC guy. Marvel, like, because my wife, I think it was in 2016 for my birthday, got me a subscription to the brand new app, Marvel Unlimited, where you can just read as many comics as you want. And that became my nightly ritual for the last 8 years. I've read comic books every night for 8 years, right? So, you know, I've got a decent catalog in my head. But yeah, Silver Surfer is a very torn up. I mean, Galactus has him just kind of stuck. If he leaves Galactus, it'll be worse for the universe. If he stays, it's a horrible burden, you know, and just a tragedy character, honestly.
I see a chat about needing to turn my mic up. Am I okay, or do I just need to
You're
speak up a little
okay.
bit?
I think he's
fine.
talking
you
to Ghost.
My mic? For real. Okay.
No, I said I think Madness or Pops was talking to you, Ghost,
Oh,
from the chat there.
Oh, it's telling Ghost to turn me up. I got it.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
turn you up. You're good to me, but if they need more, I'll give them more. All right. There's a third song here from Mal.
Yep.
This one is called Out of Gas. Here we go.
Cool.
No, wait. Don't play the music yet. Wait a minute.
Wait, Pops has something to say.
Listen, I'm out there and I can't hear Tavion at all on the stream out there. In here, you might be able to hear him, but out there on YouTube and Pilled, we can barely hear him. So turn Tavion's mic up. You're fine, Ghost. You're fine, Mal, but we can't hear Tavion.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Don't know if that's on my end or what.
All right, that's loud as I could turn it.
Okay.
Tavion, say something.
Testing 1, 2, 3. How am I doing? Everybody can chat in over on the comments.
How about that? I think that's nice.
I do go up and down on volume a lot just as I talk, so I'm going to try to
You're good now.
regulate here and make sure that I keep my volume the same. Okay. Well, hopefully that's enough of a test and we can move on with the music.
Out of gas, people. Here we go. All right, very nice. Once
Yeah.
again, look at that, man. That's fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. So,
Looks like we got tornado warning where we're at.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Every
So-
phone in the house just went off, so I needed to go kind of
What's your-
peek out some windows and see. It looks okay out there, but it's really still, which is a little bit disconcerting, but we'll see.
what's your favorite kind of tornado?
The kind that's far, far away.
Yeah.
The kind that I can watch on TV and go, oh, those poor people.
The ones that stay the fuck out of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so if you had to choose a song of yours to start your documentary, like you're putting together a story of Atomic Annie, and you want to start that show with this song, what would it be? Which song?
It would be
Probably.
a real early one.
I would actually say Autumn Dreaming.
Oh, well, that's earlier than what I was going to say. But under the name Atomic Annie,
True.
there is a particular one. Hold on, let me see. Let me see if I
While,
can get
while
it.
Mal's looking for that, Autumn Dreaming.
up.
Last week I explained the very first track that Mal and I wrote together when we were doing that corporate job, and
Yeah.
we called it. We ended up calling it Autumn Dreaming, and if we were doing such a thing as a documentary on how Atomic Annie began, to me that would be it. Actually, the first track that Mal and I wrote together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
that would
like
be
a
it.
musical documentary. Like it could be like a movie, but the music explained it with maybe little subtitles here and there.
Yeah.
The first song you would start it with.
Yeah. What did you find, Mal?
I'm looking, man. Hold on. Let me see. Well, it constantly freaking auto plays on my phone.
Huh.
Every time I get in a vehicle, it auto plays. Do you know how to make that happen from sitting at a desk? So I guess it's alphabetical. Is that how I need to search? Under songs?
Where?
Oh, on my phone. iPhone.
Oh, in iTunes.
Yeah.
If they're labeled as us, yeah, you can go to artist and then search.
Is that
off
it? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's good.
A lot of these don't have titles. You got to remember, man. We've in the 4 years, almost 4 years. It's coming up close that we've been doing this. We must have composed 200 pieces. I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
More than that, as far as composed.
Yeah, as far as the
Over 300.
yeah, it's nuts how much we've done, and so most of them don't have titles.
I'm looking for it, Ghost. I'm going to see if I can upload it. You asked, so.
Yes. So I would like to know. I mean, what y'all got going sounds
Thank
like an absolute drama of an awesome, just a story that could be told, with books and music combined. You could play it at the second roar and just get the whole experience, right?
It's funny you mention that, because every going back to when I first started writing, when I was around 17, 18, I got my first MIDI keyboard where I could fully orchestrate something from scratch, and have all the instruments, even if, they sounded like a 90s Roland, they were still there. And, everyone always told me, here I was trying to write rock, and everyone kept telling me, oh, it sounds like a movie soundtrack. And so, yeah, there's always been a cinematic quality to anything that I've done for some reason.
All right. So we have Mal's.
He's looking for it.
It's wrong. The one I uploaded
Oh
wrong.
no! Oh no!
Wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Just
it's
did it.
really long too, because I barely cut it way back in the day. I didn't do a proper,
It was it was very much a just long form jam that you couldn't edit down because it was so fluid.
Right. It's a ballad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
All
Right.
right.
I did not click on the wrong one.
Was. All right. So this is Mal's first pick for the Atomic Annie documentary. Here we go. So very nice. Once again.
Tavian, you did so good back
Whoa.
then with what you were dealing with, you know?
Oh yeah, I had so much less gear, and that one was built. I mean, that one was made up from scratch, pretty much on the spot.
No, it was.
Yeah.
I'd
I'd actually forgotten how many twists and turns that one had taken.
Yeah. Yeah, I just left it 10 minutes. I don't know. I think it might deserve to just be a 10-minute piece. It's been a minute since I've actually listened to it. It's
We
neat.
might need to revisit that one in the
Bro,
in the
no.
near future.
No, I'm not doing that. It means I have to learn 10 minutes of my own guitar playing from 3 years ago. I'm not, no. Because I'm not doing that piece unless I learn it. Like, I have to learn that. At least
There's a lot of weird shit there too.
there's a lot of guitar stuff. Like, I was carrying a lot more space back then, you know, and there's, 25 different phrases that I would not want to not be a part of that piece. Like, they have to.
He's got to learn his own licks, people.
Yeah,
His
I know.
licks are so
I know.
fire. He's got to relearn his own licks.
Bro.
This is amazing.
If that's what fire is. Actually, if anything, I'm kind of humbling myself a little bit by even saying I don't want to do the hard work to do that. I don't want to. That's
I hear you.
that'll be really, really hard. Like, I can, but it's, bro. Like, I'll burn a day doing it. Easy.
For sure.
So next question. If you had your choice of dream instrument, you could just buy, you had unlimited money, you could just buy whatever you want to buy. What's your dream? What the one you could just buy?
Yeah, I could just buy.
Yeah, you just get one. You just drive and get one or have it shipped or whatever.
All right.
So
So
Yamaha CS80.
Oof.
what is that?
That is a classic 80s synthesizer. It's huge.
How huge? Is it bigger than your current rig?
250 pounds.
Oh dear Lord. Why? Physical oscillators?
It's a keyboard. It's a full function keyboard,
Right.
weighted keys. I'm pretty sure it's weighted keys. I believe polyphonic aftertouch, which was insane at the time.
Right.
Aftertouch is where after you've played the keys, you've gotten the note signal out of the way, you've gotten the velocity signal out of the way as you've hit the key. Aftertouch allows you to then press the key further, press harder on the key, or in some cases wiggle the key, and that will generate more
Moreness.
basically control voltage, even though we're in the world of MIDI now and we're kind of past control voltage, but it's essentially control voltage to then modulate some part of the oscillator or some filter or something. It's programmable.
Right.
But it's extremely cool because it's like an analog synth. So I mean, you've got like this guy here, the 2600 with all its faders and knobs, and that's how you build a patch. Okay, it's not digital. You don't dial it in and all that. But it has presets. And the way the presets work, so let's pretend like we're, this whole thing is the CS80. All right, we've got the keyboard bed right here, the playing surface right here, and then you've got all your control surface and everything coming up at an angle, and you've got all those faders and knobs and everything to build your patch over here. Over here is a little bank under a flap. Okay, you flip that, you lift that flap up. And under that little flap is 4 little micro copies of the entire synthesizer, faders, and all that. Okay. And you got 4 little copies of the synthesizer control surface, but it's little tiny copies of a control surface this big. Okay. And you go in and you dial in those copies manually to match the setup that you've got for the patch over here. And then you can, by hitting preset 1, 2, 3, or 4, you can, instead of using the main set of faders and knobs, it uses the tiny little copy set of faders and knobs. And so that's how you can have presets. So you can have up to 5 tones on this thing at the same time.
Hey, that was revolutionary in 1980.
Yeah, and they're about 20 grand right now.
Yeah, I bet. Holy
if you
crap.
can find a working one, because they're crazy hard to find. And in fact, that's why it's taking, like, say, Behringer so long to clone one.
Yeah.
Is because in order to clone it properly, you have to find one that works and then make it not work anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably gonna bust it by re-engineering that one. But Ghost, did you catch the part where this synthesizer has its own loincloth?
He said something about the cloth. And
what did I say?
I was kind of baffled because
You didn't.
I'm wanting like a specific snare drum, and he's talking about
flappings, flappers.
Time traveling keyboards, and I'm like, I just want the good snare drum. Oh my god!
It was designed by Doctor Who, David Tennant style.
Yeah. No, but yeah, that's probably for me. Or if you're going more conventional, I would say the just because it's I know the specs on it and I know how it's designed, not necessarily because it's a signature model, even though, I mean, I would go with like a Geddy Lee J bass, the Geddy Lee signature line of the Fender J bass. That's a great axe, and
he's a classic kind of man. He's a classic man.
Yeah, it is actually fairly affordable. I think the Geddy Lee signature J basses are only like $1,200 or something, and they're solid. Solid J basses.
Yep.
But so yeah, for me, that would be my call.
I want petrified mammoth tusk to be the nut on the guitar. It's a little pricey. I've worked with it before. Got to say, not a fan of the smell when you grind it. But,
we got to use that for the turn knob too. The scraps.
Absolutely, those are going on the tuner knobs. Yeah, 100%. But it's gonna have basically I'm gonna build my own. My dream instrument is something I build, and I have pickups which I need to buy, which are about $400, which I ain't got right now. That's really the thing that's holding me back from making my own personal guitar right now. I need to get the pickups. It kind of affects a lot of things, knowing what my width of the pickups are, as far as how wide certain, neck can be. Yeah. Kind of important, right?
All right.
But,
sorry, I'm getting distracted by my weather app. I'm looking to see just how bad this storm is that's coming around.
Yeah, it's grumbling.
I do know that if you reach out to Atomic Annie on YouTube and talk to Mal, he might be able to. It might be $400 or $500 for some pickups, but he'll bid you a guitar.
Heck yeah! Heck yeah!
I mean, it'd be custom. Nobody will have one like it. I know that.
Or on X at Atomic Mal.
Yeah.
That's
what's is there an underscore in that?
No, it's just Atomic Mal. I got that one.
Nice. Yeah, we even had to put an OP1 on the end of ours just to get something that said Atomic Annie.
Bro, I remember when I set up our account on X a while back.
Couldn't even get Atomic Annie music?
No, dude. I tried like 12 different things, and like you had to do a lot of letters and numbers after a lot of it. So I'm like, no, I'll do OP1 because that was the first actual title of the first, under Atomic Annie name. And so, but yeah, no, my dream instrument's going to be built by me, honestly. I kind of like the idea anyway. I'm going to have some brass incorporated with some really nice Purple Heart, and I really am love working with Bolivian rosewood. I'm a big fan of that stuff. It literally smells like perfume when you cut it. It's wonderful.
I like wood smell.
Yeah,
Mal has had the wood smell conversation before, to where when you cut certain woods, You
Yep.
have a certain smell that comes up: hickory, oak, rosewood, purple, all these different woods, and it is, to me, it's delicious. I love the smell.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Mal just said. He's going to be building his own dream instrument. You come to think of it, that's kind of what I'm doing here.
You are. Yeah. Yeah. I need to sell some of this old gear here. Maybe Atomic Andy's bank account can fund my new pickups.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We've got me and Tavian, or actually Tavian has some old. Well, so do I actually have some old gear. We need to move. Yeah, I can't build no guitar for $400 or $500, but
You can get some pickups up.
well, yeah, I could do a kit guitar, heavily modified, for about $1,000. That's about as cheap as it could possibly get. Full on custom builds are going to start $2,500. It's just months of work. Has to be up there, right? In a year from now, I'm going to be like, I'm not doing them for less than $4,000. I can tell you that right now.
Wow. Nice, man. That's
I got to
awesome,
get
dude.
a catalog up and running, man. I mean, I've got this guitar all in pieces, which makes for photographs that are not very impressive, right? So I understand. I need to show a catalog before I can charge big monies, but but just the material is at least half of that 2,500 territory. Not just wood and guitar parts, but also just what it takes to run a shop. Every day I run my shop costs money. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So anyway, not trying to turn this show into promo
Now,
my new career.
I wanted to know, man.
Right on. Yeah, we talk about it on the show as well. I just feel like maybe I was droning on. Sorry.
Oh, man, that's what we're here for, to promote you guys. What you do.
on.
I mean, for real,
I'm going to step away for a second. I just heard something. I want to make sure we don't have any damage. There's been some wind. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Yeah, same here.
I mean, I want to make sure that Mal and Tavian, for that matter, get their spotlight. And they build instruments. I mean, if you really want one built, Tavian will build one for you for the right price. Might be $1 million. But
He might be he might be subbing that workout to me.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's fantastic, Mal. I mean,
I love it, man. I love the craft, but I love working with my hands. I whistle while I work. No,
yeah, good stuff.
it's a wonderful
All right.
thing.
So now we have second hour. We have a Tavian upload
Oh, cool.
of some live.
Nice.
We'll get that one in. All right.
Roy,
we go.
just
Right. Another fantastic song by Annie.
Thank
Are
you,
you not entertained? That was nice. That was very nice.
Appreciate it, man.
So, Tavian, you got another one keyed up. How long is that one?
Oh, it's probably the same length as that previous one there.
Okay. So I'm gonna let you guys say your piece. Where can we
at
find
least
you,
me.
Mal and Tavian? And then I will play this. When this is over, we will say bye and then end the stream.
Cool.
So Mal, where can
Yeah.
we find you, brother?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Atomic Mal on X. But you know, you can find me every Thursday night, Atomic Annie.
That's right.
My personal channel is you know, I post a lot of stuff that are, you know, woodworking related, and I get spicy with some commentary from time to time. But primary project really is Atomic Annie, of course. And Atomic Annie is Atomic Annie Music on YouTube, and
Rumble.
Is it Atomic Annie Music on Rumble as well? Go ahead, Tavian.
Oh no, I was just adding in. Yeah, we're really pushing Rumble. YouTube is kind of a pipe dream in terms of monetization, just because of their thresholds. So yeah, come find us on Rumble. Their audio quality has really improved in recent over the last 6 months or so, and we're wanting to really grow over there, and we're monetized there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, off of, and I know, and by that I mean you watching us there. When you see ads, we actually get money from those ads. If you watch one of our videos on YouTube and you see an ad, Google gets the money for that ad.
Yeah.
So find us on Rumble, and we're also you can find us on X at Atomic Annie OP1, and you can DM us there as well if you have any questions. I run that one a lot. I've got my own at K Octavian, but it's dead. I rarely even log into that one. So if you want to find me, just find me on the Atomic Annie X, and I'll at Atomic Annie OP1 on X, and you can find me there.
Yeah, but primarily we are funded by tips and subscriptions, and we've got a Subscribe Star, Atomic Annie Music on there as well. But also we can be tipped at Streamlabs. Streamlabs, what is it?
It's streamlabs.com/Atomic Annie Music/tip.
Right, that's it. Man, I need to memorize that better. Tavian typically does this. I used to do it every show, but now he does it. You know, I just don't have it memorized as well as I used to. So yeah, that's about it. Ghost, man. I appreciate you, Pops, Madness.
Yeah, thanks so much for hosting us tonight. We appreciate it. Spreading our music out there. Hopefully people like it, and will come check out our shows on Thursday.
Indeed.
Those are always fun. Lots of good people to talk to in the chats. Hopefully good music to have going while you write or paint or just chill.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So that's where you can find these guys, these awesome fellas that make this awesome music. We got one more upload here. We're going to play it. This is Atomic Annie, ladies and gentlemen. Please like, share, and subscribe. All things Atomic Annie. Here we go.
Thanks, guys.
Well, I tell you what, Tavian, that timing couldn't have been more perfect in many ways than one. Oh, man.
Oh yeah, just right at 11, huh?
Yeah, I mean, just like it in the timing of the song. It's pretty good. It's
Cool.
pretty good.
Cool. Well, I figured I'd stick around since I was the one that uploaded it. I didn't want to close my browser
Yeah,
until the song stopped. So
I'm actually not sure how that works. So
yeah.
if I did know, I would tell you. But
Yeah, that one was fun. I always like it when I can find a really good excuse to get into a dance beat. Just
Yeah,
a straight up
man.
4 on the floor, you know, just it's especially if I can get a really good like rave sound and a melody. So that had that, you know, bum-ba-da, bum-ba-da, bum-ba-da going on during that dance part. I always like it when I can come up with something like that because that's fun. that always gets your blood pumping there in the show.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for hosting us. We so appreciate it. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. Subscribe to Ghost Pepper. He's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
And-
not to me.
and
Atomic
Madness.
Annie. Subscribe to Atomic Annie.
Well, us too, but yeah, shouting you out because hey, man, thanks.
I mean, look, if you haven't subscribed to Atomic Annie or the Madness Comic Network, the Madness Entertainment Group, any of those, you need to do it now because you're going to regret it later. Trust me. You're going to need us in the future when the world just goes crazy and we're the only thing left that gives you any sanity.
You trust me. You need entertainment that isn't political.
Yes, you need this. You need it. Your life does not revolve around politics, people. It revolves around culture, things like art and music. That's what it revolves around. Believe it or not,
Absolutely.
that's really where it's at.
Yep.
Thanks, Tavian. Thanks,
Thank you, man.
Mal. All right. We're
See you
gonna-
guys.
Peace.
Click on the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comics sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens day.